A quick new idea daily from the world's greatest TEDx talks. I'm your host, Atossa Leoni, and this is TEDx Shorts. Baby boomer, Gen Xer, millennial, we're all part of a generational cohort, and our overgeneralized perception of other cohorts affect how we work with them. How can we assume people born within a range of 20 years all want the same thing or act the same way? Social psychologist Leah Georges offers a challenge to these generational wars, that maybe our values are aligned, regardless of when we're born.
So for the first time in America's modern history, we have 5 generations interacting at work. Now, if you open any internet browser, look at Amazon, search any of your favorite search engines, you might assume there's a literal war in the workplace, right? We see blog topics like 17 reasons why millennials are the worst generation, and why baby boomers have ruined it for everybody, or bridging the great generational divide. It's like turned into this West Side Story, like boomers come in one door, millennials come in another door, the lobby, they just fight with each other all day, complain, go home, do the same, come back to work, right? Well, so what if I told you these generations may not exist? So I've been spending some time thinking about this and researching this, and fellow researchers and I aren't exactly sure that these generations are real. And in fact, if we can agree that these groups even exist, we certainly don't agree who belongs in them. And they span something like 20 years. So at every point in history, a 1-year-old and a 20-year-old are said to share the same value system, to want the same things at work, to have the same stereotypes working for and against them. And in fact, different areas of the world define these generations differently. So we can't even compare generations across various areas of the world. And these stereotypes about each generation have, in a lot of ways, created this self-fulfilling prophecy that people begin to act as if they're part of that generation because we've said out loud that generation is real. I'm not so sure that it is. And in fact, this idea of generations has become deeply embedded in United States culture. When we talk generations, people know exactly what we're talking about. In fact, people have a lot of thoughts and feelings about each of these generations, and I'll tell you how I know this. I did the thing that every red-blooded American and pre-tenure academic does when they have a question. I Googled some stuff, and this is what I learned. So Google is based on algorithms, and they provide you with commonly searched terms or suggested hits based on what other people are searching surrounding the same topic. And it gave me a really good sense of what people think about each of these generations. Take a look. I learned that baby boomers are conservative, that Americans think they're stupid. The worst generation, they're angry, apparently they're racist, and they're so important. Looking at Generation X, I learned Generation X is a cynical group, okay? They're angry. They're known as the lost generation. We know this, okay? They're the smallest generation. Apparently they're stupid too, okay? And mostly they're frustrated with baby boomers. All right, millennials, this is what I learned about us. So we're obsessed with food, okay? We're also stupid. Okay. We're lazy, we're sensitive, we're fired, we're also hated, and we think we're important. And perhaps the most terrifying search result on the internet, Generation Z is screwed. Okay, so for 5 years, I've been talking to leaders and followers across a wide variety of organizations. And this is what I've come to realize. Generations haven't become part of the conversation. Generations have become the conversation at work. And what I've learned is that we're working under the assumption that those Google results are true. And so, what I think is that organizations are now desperate to figure out how to manage the multi-generational workplace. I've talked to these organizations and I've heard amazing things that they're doing to create a workspace for everybody to get along and to have autonomy and to feel like they're thriving. But I've also heard some really incredibly harebrained ideas about how to navigate the multi-generational workplace. I talked to an organization who recently decided against putting a ball pit in the break room because that's how you retain millennials. We're 30, not 3. So this is also what I've learned talking to organizations that employ a wide range of people of various ages. We are so much more similar than we are different, and we're hearing this consistently. People want work that matters. They want flexibility. They want support. They want appreciation. They want better coffee. But none of these things are tied to a generation. Now, sure, we see small differences in what people want. We know 20-year-olds and 60-year-olds go home and do different things. They have different values, at least when it comes to things happening outside of work. But I think what's happened is that this focus on generational cohorts, these groups of people, has created a space where we've just forgot that people are people. And to know who they really are, who we really work with, we have to figure out how to better navigate this multi-generational workplace than ball pits. Call me one of those idealist millennials, but I think we can get there. And I don't think the idea is too terribly difficult. What if we radically, simply, not easily, meet people where they are? Individualize our approach. I've never met a generation. I've had a lot of conversations with people who happen to identify with a specific generational cohort. I know that 80-year-olds text message and 23-year-olds crochet blankets. None of these things are stereotypical of that generation, right? Nilofer Merchant, she's a thought leader in innovation. She tells us we have to meet people in their onlyness. That is that spot in the world where only we stand as a function of our unique history, our experiences, and our hopes. But this requires flexibility and curiosity. And what happens when we meet people in their onlyness? Only the spot in the world that they stand. We learned that that boomer who's just acting angry at work all the time is scared because he's worked every day since he was 16 years old. And in a Monday, sooner than he can imagine, he'll never go to work again. He's got plans. It's going to take like a week and a half to do all the things on that retirement list. But then what? What if we give a little bit of grace to the person that might be a little scared? Or that Generation Xer who has 4 drop-offs, 3 kids, 2 hands, and is just trying to keep the wheels on the bus. Sure, maybe she's a little aloof at work. Maybe she's a little independent. Maybe she's exhausted. Or that millennial who asks for a raise after 2 months because they're entitled. Well, maybe it's because that generation has more debt than any generation before them coming out of college, and they just need the money to keep going, to pay rent. And suddenly, when you meet people in their onlyness, that spot in the world only they stand, we're not talking about a generation anymore. We're talking about Jim or Jen or Candace. And so here's my challenge to us. Pick a person, just one, and explore their onlyness, and then learn. And then in the moments where it's appropriate, teach, and figure out what they bring to work that no one else can bring to work, because that's what makes work richer. And then do it again, and do it again. And then someday, we're not working with generations anymore. We're working with people. And so to really understand the beauty of the multi-generational workplace, I think we just have to meet people where they are. And that doesn't require that we unpack and live there with them, but we might find, at least on occasion, it's a beautiful place to visit. And so I think there's just no need to argue about which generation is the most angry or the most entitled or the most so obsessed with food. We all come to the classroom to work, back to our homes a little bit tired and a little bit tattered sometimes. Maybe let's just do our best to humbly meet people where they are, how they show up that day, generation and all.
The TEDx talk you just listened to was recorded at a TEDx event in Omaha, Nebraska. All TEDx events are independently organized by volunteers who believe in TED's mission of ideas worth spreading. Special thanks to the organizing team at TEDxCreightonU. Want to listen to the full talk? Find Teresa's talk and more at ted.com/TEDxShorts. I'm Atossa Leoni. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.